Welcome to What the Bible Says, a Lug Nuts podcast group production.
Good morning and welcome back to the podcast. I think that's, I don't know, Steve. Just the podcast.
The podcast.
The podcast.
Doesn't get any more generic and basic and simple, but that's kind of who we are.
Right, exactly. So we're back to the original, your regularly scheduled programming. We're not doing on the lighter side this week. We're back into the depression book. I noticed that our on the lighter side got only one view. So our listeners are like, we don't want this. We want the book. So
all three of our listeners.
We're giving you the book. The book is back. We're going to do chapter 8. It is titled Remember. And of course, this is the depression book by Edward T. Welch, Looking Up from the Stubborn Darkness. It's good to be back in this book, honestly. It's good to be back.
It's like a warm towel out of the dryer. It just feels good.
It does.
Just feels good.
It does. Well, I really didn't have a whole lot on 59, to be honest with you. That actually is meaningful. Unless you say blah, 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 blah is meaningful, then yes, I had something meaningful on 59.
Uh-huh.
Other than that, no.
Well, I think what's meaningful about this is the whole premise of this chapter is one of the ways that you can try to, because you don't really know how to help a person who's struggling with depression or going through a difficult time, is you just say, just put on a happy face, Go find your happy place, your happy thoughts. Just think positive. And I'm all about positive thinking. I get that. But that's really not very helpful at all, just to tell a person, well, just the sun will come up tomorrow. I'm sorry, I'm singing. It's painful at best. But so I think that's what the premise of this whole chapter is remembering, but remembering what? And I think that's what we want to talk about today.
Yeah. Then we get into what spiritual reality is, and it's I'm trying to go back to what spiritual reality, because I don't want to start off with spiritual reality is like that. And then our listeners are going to ask the question, well, what is that?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to go back and trying to give context because, Steve, a text without a context is just a pretext.
I get it.
So I guess for right now, this text is going to remain a pretext. I'm sorry, Steve. I have no context for it. Yeah. Well, scratch that thought.
Okay.
Because I can't find where it goes into spiritual reality is like that. Unless it's saying that it's like showing a toy to a young child and then quickly put it behind your back. Magical powers. I guess that's what it's going off of. Sleight of hand. I don't know, Steve. I don't know. Save me from this.
From this depth.
From the depth of I have no idea what I'm trying to say.
Well, what I think it's talking about here is that that chapter, I think, if you kind of panic there a little bit, it says spirituality is like that, and then it gives an illustration of what it's like. You hear a great illustration, you participate in a Christ-centered worship, and your heart is moved, but within minutes, it's as if you never heard a word, never participated. You have entered a case of spiritual Alzheimer's. Okay, and the point is that how easy it is. The reality is that we can see something and experience it, and yet it just kind of goes away.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the whole idea of this chapter is saying we can't let those, how do we go back and reclaim some of those spiritual realities? Well, how do we go back and claim some of those different times where God has impacted in our life and God has really helped us work through And the reality is sometimes we get spiritual Alzheimer's and we kind of forget. And it's kind of like, when David in the Psalms, he goes, "Where are you, God? Oh, God," and it's me. I mean, it's me in my own daily walk. We stop and think about, some of the things that we're going through and heartache and trials. And then God saying, "But yeah, don't you remember when I did that and you got through? Oh, yeah. And don't you remember when we did that?" See, that is the power. This is a little side note here.
Mm-hmm.
But that is the power of journaling.
Mm.
Journaling, because I've been journaling now for close to 15 years. And I'm on my 5th book now. I've filled up. And I journal. and it's not like, it's kind of like a Dear Diary, but not, I'm journaling different activities that are going on in the world around, but I'm also saying, how is God working in my life? I've got my own spiritual journey right now with my battle with cancer that I'm journaling that.
Mm-hmm.
And someday I'll go back and look at that. But for me, every now and then, I'll just go back and look at what was going on 10 years ago. Oh, man, I totally forgot about that. And so this is just me just shooting from the hip. I didn't even think about it till right now. One of the ways I think remembering this chapter would be good is the discipline of journaling. Just getting a book and just starting to just write down your thoughts and prayers that you have, maybe Bible verses that are meaningful to you. And I think that would help, because sometimes, unless you've got, like my son Jeremy, darn near total recall, it's hard for me to even think about, dude, I forgot what I had for breakfast yesterday. Let alone, how does God work into my heart 20 years ago?
Right.
Unless it's such a cataclysmic event that, like, okay, I will never forget that part of it. But some of just those times where, see, to me, I think some of the times God works in the most powerful ways is sometimes when he does something that only I even recognize that's even God working. Nobody else even has a clue. But to me, that's like, oh man, that was a God moment there. Well, sometimes those God moments just kind of float off in a way. And I think that the spirituality, I think that's what he's talking about here. As a kid forgets about the toy, so spiritually speaking, the reality is we can forget about the goodness of God and how he's working, and we get the spiritual Alzheimer's.
Mm-hmm.
Was that what you're trying to say, Kenny?
Yeah, but I also kind of thought it would give kind of a description of what spirituality is. I know it did in that sentence, but I thought, because it's when it says spiritual reality is like that, then it should have been pointing back to what it was talking about previously, but I don't know.
That's another day for English composition.
Yes.
Moving on.
Exactly. So it is critical to the. We're going to skip that because that's going back to another thing, and I'm not going to spend time trying to find what that thing is. So just going to leave that alone.
Walk away.
I've learned my lesson.
Let it go.
Exactly.
Let it go.
I'm letting it go. The verse here from Psalm 130 is very important too. It's just basically David. I think that was the verse you were talking about when David was like, "Oh God, where are you?"
Right.
It's basically what David's doing here. He's like, "God, where are you?"
Mm-hmm.
Even though God was right there.
Right there. He's right there with us. Next to you.
So, and it kind of gives a little bitty excerpt of, out of the depths, because that's how Psalm 130 starts. And it just gives a little brief, 2-paragraph-ish explanation on the verse. And then one of the subtitles of this chapter is the forgiveness of sins.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes, he feels like his life is in the balance. I think he, in this, is David. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So he feels like his life is in the balance, and without deliverance, he has minutes left, not days. Deliverance comes, but as God's custom, it comes in a way we could not have predicted. To be honest, at first glance, it seems like a lame rescue attempt.
Mm-hmm.
And there are days where forgiveness can feel like that. It's just, oh, you're just trying to get out of this. It's just a lame thing. And honestly, at this point, I think in humanity, forgiveness is just seen like that anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It's just some sort of, it's here, I'm sorry. I forgive you.
Mm-hmm.
But do you really?
Right.
So there's that.
Okay. And so I guess, and I don't know if this is where you're going with this whole thing, because it seems interesting that because what he's remembering here is, but with you there is forgiveness, therefore you are feared. And if I'm the person who is in depression, I'm usually pointing the fingers at everybody else but at everything else except me.
Right.
Now, I'm not saying that your circumstances or things the way you're going on aren't hurtful or discouraging or whatever, but I think what the first idea of with you there's forgiveness is what David is saying and counseling of the Lord is saying. David, point a big fat finger at yourself first. And not that there's suffering because of your sin. I mean, that's the whole premise of Job. Job, his friends, Job just confessed and, God will take his finger off of you. Well, that wasn't the problem.
Right.
That was, there was a test was going on. But we also know that David said because of his sin with Bathsheba, his body was wasted away. He groaned. There was a definite connection between physical suffering and pain and his sin. And so the whole point here of this thing, on page 62, is the second paragraph says, to appreciate the Psalm's guidance on this, we have to believe that sin is a problem in our lives. In fact, to really be led by the Psalm, we must realize that sin is our deepest problem, even deeper than our depression. Ooh, dog. Talk about oh, thanks for that slap in the face, Steve. Appreciate that. Because what can happen is I can become so, enamored or not enamored, that is so consumed with my depression that I don't realize that a lot of my thinking might be sinful, wicked. Some of the choices that I'm making. Yeah. And so the first thing David says, the first thing God says to David is, I'm a God of forgiveness. Okay, well, so what? Because you need forgiveness. But wait a minute. I'm the guy who's depressed. That's right. And because you're the guy that's depressed, you need to really take a deep dive into your soul and say, is there something going on that even though I might be wrongfully being persecuted or wrongfully being, the part of what's happening in this trial or the situation, you need to deal with you to come back in the right relationship with me. Yeah. And that's hard to say that to a person you're counseling, is saying, let's do a deep dive into your own soul first. But so-and-so did this to me, or this situation, or this happened, or whatever. I get it. But many times, can you control those things?
No,
I can't. But can you control you? Sure.
Of course.
Sure. Okay, so that's kind of how I see this whole first one on forgiveness.
Mm-hmm. And then we get into 4 questions that we can ask ourselves during a time of depression, or we can ask someone else if we're counseling another person on depression. Question 1 is, do you believe that seeing sin in yourself is a good thing? To me, I answered all these questions just right next to it, and I put yes. Because, I mean, to anyone who's a Christian, these are kind of obvious questions, obvious answered questions. To everyone else, it's kind of a, that's a good question. So I love that. The first sentence after that first question is, here you are feeling like your self-worth couldn't be any lower.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it couldn't be any lower. But then, seeing sin in your life could make it feel even lower than where it is now.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a good starting point, is seeing the sin in your life. That means that you can go back and say, okay, this is what I've done wrong. What do I need to do to fix it?
Mm-hmm.
Are there any relationships that need mending or whatever? Do I need to seek people out or
Mm-hmm.
whatever that looks like? And then attack the problem and then move on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The second question is, do you believe that sin against God? Do you believe that sin is against God? Again, that's another obvious answered question. To go one step further, it may be easy to acknowledge that you sin. Who doesn't? It is tougher to acknowledge that your sin is against God. And so we need to realize that every time we sin, we're sinning against God.
Mm-hmm.
And God is not happy
Yeah.
when we sin either. Third question is, do you believe that sin is found in imaginations, motives, thoughts, and deeds? This one can be a little bit more tougher, but again, it's another obvious answered question to many people out there listening. Well, to the 3 people listening to this podcast. So, yeah, it is. We can sin in our thoughts and deeds where we don't have to act on it. Even like thinking about like seeing someone walk past and they have a nice jacket on and say, that's a nice jacket. I wish I had that jacket.
Mm-hmm.
Or I want that jacket.
Right.
You don't need it.
Right.
So,
Well, these are things that aren't, many times our thought processes, unless we have a little balloon above our head, it's, speech balloon, is telling people what we're thinking, that people don't know, but they're always apparent to God.
mm,
And so it's not like I can have these thoughts and somehow God doesn't know
right.
my thoughts.
Right.
So, yeah, sin is found in imagination, motives, thoughts, and my deeds as well.
And then the final question is, can you pinpoint right now a handful of sins?
Yeah, ouch.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks for that one. I thought I was coming to you for some help. All you're doing is making me feel worse.
Yeah. This one is not a all hunky-dory kind of chapter. This is one of those slap in the face chapters.
Right.
But it's also good to have one of those chapters to say, okay, we're getting down to the nitty-gritty.
Right.
And this is not just hey, I hope you feel good.
Right.
This is if you want to get better, then we got to attack the problem.
Right. And it's easy to, again, point fingers at other people and say, I'm the victim here, and shy away from really doing a deep soul searching and saying, God, look me through and through and see if there's any sinful way that I might have.
And then we get into the next sub-chapter in the Bible, and it's the Bible.
Hello, Ed. You've got a promotion.
No, this is not the Bible. Sorry, Ed. Now it's time for your demotion. We're back to the depression book. Subtitle in the chapter of Remember, and it's hope. Love produces hope. And this is one of the keys for depression is hope. Because you can get through it, but you need to have hope that you can. Because it's not going to be, oh, look at me, I have depression. Oh, no, I'm free. No, it's not going to be like that. And you're not going to wake up tomorrow either and say, oh, hey, man, I remember my one day of depression.
Right.
No, that's not how it works. It's going to be a grind, but you're going to get through it.
Mm-hmm.
You can get through it. So that's kind of basically in a nutshell, kind of, I guess what it's trying to say is you can get through it.
Yeah, without hope, there's no reason to, and our hope can't be in our circumstances. That's where the definition, biblical definition of hope is sure of what you hope for, certain of what you can't see. I mean, that's our faith and object of that. And so it's not like, well, I hope this happens, or, it's a very firm belief in what's gonna transpire in the future, which is rooted in what does God's word have to say. But it's, as you have said before, it's not just something that you go flip a switch and it just happens immediately. As a matter of fact, this is where you've got to not allow your feelings to dictate your decision making, and just really keep plowing through day after day, even if you don't feel like it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you just give up, then you will be in trouble.
Mm-hmm. And so a lot of this ties back into the Psalm 130 verse that was back a couple pages ago. And in one of the paragraphs on 65, I had underlined, if it isn't quite contagious, don't despair. To move from the depths to a confident home takes practice. Consider this psalm a condensed version of a long learning process. God has determined that in many good things come through perseverance.
Mm-hmm.
And I just put off to the side also repetition.
Yes.
So
yep,
you got to persevere, but you've got to do it day after day after day after day. And then it will become just second nature because you've built up a habit.
Good man. Good man.
And then I love the last closing point of this little sub-chapter of hope is both a gift from God and a skill that he enables us to attain. The point is that you can have the psalmist hope. And that, again, ties back into Psalm 130.
Okay.
And then the last sub-chapter of this, why do I keep saying Bible, Steve?
I don't know.
It's not the Bible. It is not. Last sub-chapter of this book in this chapter is encouraging others. And this is just, if you're, counseling someone, this is what you can really look into and say, this is how I can encourage another person. Mm-hmm. Or if you're depressed and if you want to encourage someone else, you can do that too. Mm-hmm. And this is what you can do. Really just look at Psalm 130, and then that's basically where you can encourage people and find hope is in Psalm 130. And then we get into the response, and basically this is kind of the application point of each chapter is the response. So now is the time to force feed. Your spiritual health depends on it. If your spiritual health is declining, then, well, you need to find somebody that can, one, help you, and two, you need to find some hope. Mm-hmm. Like we used to say that you can rely on our hope to get through for the first couple of chapters, but it's like right now you need to start finding your own hope because you can't lean on ours for forever. So.
Well, it's the importance of community. I think that's where that comes in. And for some people, community comes easily. They come to church, are involved. They meet other people. It doesn't come so easy. Get out of habit of going to church. Not really kind of isolate yourself. And as long as your world is okay, then I don't really need anybody else. But when the walls start to tumble and you really need that support system around you, if you've not sewed into it, that's going to be really, really hard. And so that's what I think part of this whole business of hope and encouragement. I just had somebody yesterday, a good friend of mine just called me up out of the blue and said, "Hey, how you doing, man? Let's talk." In 15 minutes we just talked about, anything and everything. And it was just, that person's way of just calling me and encouraging me, and I can do the same thing. And so our listeners, I would encourage them, not only is this, talk for you right now, but who is going through a struggle right now that you know of that you could call and just encourage them. Mm-hmm. And maybe not so much to talk about what they're going through, but just to call up, just to chat and just say, "Hey, what about them Irish? Or what about there's only, I forget, I think I saw a meme that it's about 3 weeks till spring training opens. Pitchers and catchers report for spring training. 1st of February. So, and we won't even go there about the White Sox.
No, we won't.
Sorry.
No, we won't.
Sorry. So anyway, yeah.
We can close this chapter out. The last final question in this chapter, and this ties back into, Steve, what you were talking about with journaling, is what is your plan for remembering?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how are you going to remember fill in the blank?
Mm-hmm.
And I think journaling is one good way to do that. I don't journal. That's not my cup of tea.
Mm-hmm.
Not to rain on your parade, Steve. I'm sorry.
You didn't rain on my parade at all.
But yeah, I think if someone was like, how am I going to remember this? Well, I think journaling is one good way. I know people who have like recorders and they just record on a recorder, what's going on. It's basically like journaling, but audio version of journaling. I know people who do that, or make blogs and do that. So there's many different ways to remember. It's just how you want to do it.
People do it right now. They don't even realize it. I just happened the other day. An event that happened, and this person got on their phone and went and found a picture from about, 7-8 years ago. And just, oh, yeah. So, it could be just something as simple as going back and looking at old pictures that just take and jog your memory. Or, I love getting out. This really dates me, photo albums with actually hard, black and white pictures before there was color, That tells you how old you are. But, anyway, anything you can do to somehow jog your memory into, how has God been working in my heart and my life?
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the things he's got me through? And that would just be helpful in this whole area of trying to remember God and his goodness and how he can help you through this.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's going to close chapter 8. Next week, we get into my favorite chapter, chapter 9, and that is purpose. I will try not to spend an hour talking about this chapter, more specifically, one of the pages of this chapter, because we don't have an hour to talk. But
do I get to talk?
Oh, you get to talk. Yeah, of course,
I'm kind of
Steve.
getting the idea. I don't get to talk next time.
No. You can talk, Steve. It is
That's all right.
perfectly okay. But I personally am not going to try to talk for an hour on this chapter, because this is by far my favorite chapter, and I feel the meat of the book is this chapter. But you're going to have to wait until next week.
Man, I can hardly wait. Dun, dun, dun. Man, what a segue. What a teaser.
So, for Steve, this is Kenny saying, we will see you next week.
We hope you enjoyed the podcast today. If you did, please check out our website for more podcast episodes and shows at thelugnutspodcastgroup.com. Like us on Facebook and Instagram, and we will see you